Welcome to Self-Publishing with Ally, proudly sponsored by BookVault. Sell high-quality print-on-demand books directly to readers worldwide and earn maximum royalties selling directly. Automate fulfillment and create stunning special editions with BookVault Bespoke. Visit bookvault.app today for an instant quote. Our self-publishing news stream is sponsored by book cover design company Mibble Art. They offer unlimited revisions, take no deposit to start work, and you pay only when you love the final result. Get a book cover that will become your #1 marketing tool. And now, here's your host for Self-Publishing with Ally, Dan Holloway.
So what better way to spend a scorching summer afternoon than to talk about my favourite topic? So welcome to the Self-Publishing News Podcast, where we are going to be discussing just that, my favourite topic, European Union legislation. Because this weekend, or this weekend gone as it now is, the European Accessibility Act came into force across the European Union, and whether you're based in the European Union or not, this almost certainly will affect you because almost all of us are selling into the European Union, and this affects everyone who is doing that and selling into the EU. So, what does this Act say? What does it require from us? What does it not require from us? I would say that my colleague Ros Morris has a great piece up on the Ally website. I will endeavour to remember to send Howard the link so that he can link to that, which is its great Q&A session on the Accessibility Act written earlier this year. Basically, covers everything you need to know, but I will go over some of the key areas. So the European Accessibility Act, it's been in the works for many years now. It was passed some months ago and has come into law in the European Union. Now, what this states briefly is that all digital products need to be accessible for as many users as possible, and the principles which govern accessibility in this case are the same principles that W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, use for their web content accessibility guidelines, or WCAG as they are commonly known, and I am sure I will be calling them through this podcast. So the WCAG guidelines have basically 4 founding principles, which are perceivability, operability, understandability, and robustness. The eagle-eared amongst you will have realised that this does what American organisations love to do more than anything, and that is form an acronym, and that acronym is POUR. POUR as in pour a jug of tea, rather than poor as in what writers tend to be. So what do these things mean? Perceivability basically means that all audiences should be able to take in the information that you're trying to convey. So this is irrespective, for example, of sensory issues that the audience might have. So people with hearing difficulty need to be able to understand audiobooks. People who are visually impaired need to be able to understand ebooks. And this means such things as including alternative text for images. Operability. This basically is how you use the product. And the most commonly cited example of this is that things need to be able to be navigated by keyboard shortcuts as well as by mouse. It also matters for how we lay our books out, so using headings that are navigable, for example. Any of us who've been dealing with Amazon in the last few years will probably be already very familiar with creating lots of headings to help people navigate through books, because this was a requirement on Amazon ever since they changed the table of content rules because of content stuffing that was going on around KDP Select. So this is something we should already be familiar with. Understandability, that basically means that people should be able to find their way around stuff. Things should be intuitive to use. They should be laid out in a way that people can understand. A really good example of this is using links that say what they do. So rather than saying, download here, where the only thing that is underlined is the word here, you're saying click the highlighted link to download a copy of the latest report on audiobook sales in Finland, for example. Again, something we're probably getting used to already. And finally, robust. And this is something that in my dealings with technical companies, people struggle with most. It basically means that content should be compatible with a wide variety of devices and operating systems and assistive and other technology. So that means that most people using most browsers should be able to use your ebook. This is probably something that authors struggle with less than a lot of other companies I deal with in terms of accessibility, who test things on the latest version of every browser as though everyone has the latest version of every browser. So those are the 4 principles. Everything else flows from those. So if you are following those principles, you should be covered. The other thing that should cover you is if you are following the WCAG guidelines. We will make sure there is a link to those also in content. But you probably don't need to worry too much about the detail of those, because a lot of the companies that we are used to using are doing their very best to be compliant already. So, for example, Draft2Digital have been really leading the way on this. If you make your books available through Draft2Digital, they will make sure that they are accessible for the markets you want to sell them in. And that's great. Again, and this is something that Roz has pointed out in her column, if you use formats like EPUB, so this is the format that is run and maintained by W3C, then that will be compatible with the devices it needs to be compatible with, the technologies it needs to be compatible with, because the same team essentially that runs WCAG also runs EPUB. So this is another reason to move away from proprietary file formats and just use something like EPUB. PDFs. So this is probably the one thing that most people are going to struggle with most. PDFs, by and large, are not good with assistive technology. They struggle with headings, they struggle with navigability, they struggle with things like changing font size, changing background. So they are generally, they are designed for print. They're designed, this is why printers like PDFs of your print-ready copy. PDFs are designed for printers, they are not designed for electronic reading, although that's what most of us use them for all the time. And people do sell PDFs. Usually they sell them when they're selling direct. The most common use of the selling of PDFs is in educational and training materials. So course books will frequently come as a PDF, for example. So if you sell courses, the course book will come as a PDF. It's probably, without disparaging anyone who does sell PDFs and really great content PDFs, it's probably not an accident that a lot of the slightly iffier advice out there, to use the technical term, on how to make money through ebooks, advises taking what you know and turning it into a PDF to sell it. That's not really how you do it. And as Roz points out, PDF should not be the only format of your ebook. So yes, very well said. I couldn't have said it better. So, if you don't do all this, what will happen to you? Let's face it, probably nothing. In theory, you could be fined, and you could be fined a significant amount of money, thousands of euros. Probably the worst that's going to happen to writers who fail to comply is something in the middle, which will be that accounts are excluded from selling into those markets. So that's the most likely thing that is going to happen. But accessibility is a good thing. As you know, I do a lot of work on accessibility in my non-Ally time. It's something I'm very passionate about. And it's great to see a piece of legislation that is really taking it seriously. So that's most of the news. And it's on, as I say, my favourite topic, European legislation. There is some news on nobody's or not many people's favourite topic, AI and AI rulings. And that is that one of the high-profile court cases was ruled on this week. And the ruling on the case against Anthropic has thrown up some interesting thoughts. So there are 3 key things that have been ruled. This is a case that was brought by 3 authors who were claiming that the use of copyrighted works to train Claude, which is Anthropic's large language model, would create... It would basically be uncompetitive, I think, was the sort of the TLDR of their case. It was going to churn out works that were competing with and detrimental to their own sales. So it wasn't strictly a case brought under copyright law. And that's important because when it comes to copyright, the judge found that Anthropic had basically pirated a load of books. And it pirated a load of books by using shadow libraries like LibreGenesis, LibGen. So this is going to be an interesting foreshadowing, if you forgive the pun, of the Meta case later in the year. And it is likely that Anthropic are going to be landed with a big bill that could run into billions of dollars for having done so. That said, on the substantive matter of the case, which is whether it was okay to use copyrighted books to produce new outputs, the judge has ruled that, yep, Anthropic did nothing wrong. What they did constitutes fair use. So not necessarily the way they got the copyrighted books, but using copyrighted books is fair use because, and this is a saying that everyone is going to be quoting, the use to which Anthropic put it is quote, transformative, spectacularly so. So transformative is, of course, what something needs to be in order to be justified. And the judge has gone the extra mile and said that the output that comes from models like Claude is spectacularly transformative. So that is going to cause some eyebrows to be raised. But the key point that the judge seems to be making is that anything that comes out isn't going to be in direct competition. It's not going to be like enough to those authors' books that is going to be in direct competition with them. So there we go. There are many more rulings to come. I will bring you news on all of them, but that's a good place to leave it for now. And I look forward very much to speaking to you again at the same time next week. Thank you.
You've been listening to Self-Publishing with Ally, proudly sponsored by BookVault. Sell high-quality print-on-demand books directly to readers worldwide and earn maximum royalties selling directly. Automate fulfillment and create stunning special editions with BookVault Bespoke. Visit bookvault.app today for an instant quote. Our self-publishing news stream is sponsored by book cover company Nibble Art. They offer unlimited revisions, take no deposit to start work, and you pay only when you love the final result. Get a book cover that will become your #1 marketing tool. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our association and become a self-publishing ally. You could do that at allianceindependentauthors.org.